Hello and welcome to another Sonic Labs special. We're here with Tim Chandler from Nektar, who's showing us just the sort of level of integration that we can get with the Panorama series of keyboards. We've got the P4 here. If you want to check out what we've also looked at, you can see that we've looked at Bitwig and also a more in-depth look at the way that the integration, tighter integration with plugins, and that was using Cubase and Reason. So Tim, today you're going to show us a little bit more about what's going on with the control of Logic X, because that's kind of the newest member of the team, I suppose.
Yeah, we released version 1. It's not at the level of Nektar integration that we would like it to be. It's not the same level of integration as what we saw with Cubase. However, we realised that it's a big project. Every single piece of every single door we support is individual. It's effectively a whole new project.
And it's got a lot of internal devices, isn't it, that are specific to it, I suppose.
Exactly, but we also realised that what we had, even without the deep integration and plugin mapping that we do, is probably more controllable than a lot of the solutions out there. So we wanted to give this to Logic users now, so they have, they can get going with the Panorama and Logic, and the response has been, very good so far. So I'm going to show you where we're at now, and of course, if you want to see what you can expect in the future, we're obviously working towards. Then have a look at the previous video with the plugin integration in particular,
right? And
that's where we'd like to be. But this is where we are now, and you'll see that it's actually very fully integrated anyway. So we'll start with the mixer page. Instrument and transport isn't implemented yet, so everything that goes on in Logic is down here on these soft keys down here. But you still have the channel mixer, and you can see that the motor fader also sends its high resolution data, 1024 steps, and that's whichever track I've got selected. So if I bring this one down, bring this one up, you can see that the fader is always going to jump to the volume of the selected track that you're playing on the keys, whichever track that is. Okay, so that's all working. We have down here track select, as you could see. We have mute, solo, and arm as well. Right. On your encoders up here, as you'd expect, you've got the pan controls. Then over here, you have the bank of 8 controllers, which is defined by these buttons. So it's the same kind of workflow as all the other doors that we've supported so far, where the buttons down here relate to these parameters, and they always relate to the selected track, which is what you're controlling, which is nice because whichever track I'm on, I can control my EQ. Turn the filter on. Go to a different track. Same thing here.
And on the screen we're seeing that wiggle as well, right? Okay.
Of course you are, yeah. And what's nice is when you open up the EQ, it pops the EQ on the display as well, which is quite a nice little feature. Back to the mixer. This when I press the mixer, I can press view as well, and that's going to open up the mixer in Logic. Right. And if I go to the instruments, I can, when I press the instrument button up, it opens the instrument, and you can see I've got the chance to change my analogs, my oscillator type. You've also got the ability to change the patch within the instrument.
Which again, I've said that earlier, sounds like a small deal, but it's actually on some DAWs and some plugins is actually quite difficult to achieve, right?
This works slightly differently with Logic. The patch buttons change the mixer channel. So if I change the track here, you can see that I can go through different junkets, like so.
Right, so it's loading channel strips.
Exactly, it's loading the channel strips. Whereas if you're in the instrument, then there's 2 other patch buttons which change the patch of the instrument, if there's patches available. In this case, of course, there's not. So what else have we got down here? We've got sends. So you've got sends 1 to 8 for the selected track. Again, change the track and you've got your sends page. Add some reverb. So again, it takes away the thought process of which send it is I need to change in the mixer, because I know that these always relate to the sound that I'm playing with the keys.
Oh, and that works. Does it work? Does it activate the sends as well? Because one of the things with Logic is you have to turn it on in many instances to actually get the...
it does. You can bypass. You can see it's active, or you can mute it.
Right.
You can do that, and you can even change the position between post and pre as well. Okay, and then inserts. So again, it's with whichever track I'm playing. I can see which inserts I have. I can go through the different slots here and find the plugin I want to control.
And again, when you were switching through on the screen there, it was just bringing the forward and opening up the actual plugin itself.
Yes, it was. Yep, everything you do down here dictates what Logic is going to open and what it's going to show.
Right.
Obviously, you've got 8 parameters per page. Unlike other DAWs where our entire instrument mode is across the controls, in this case, we've only just got these 8, and then you've got pages of them here. You can see if I go through the pages, I still get very clear input about what I'm seeing, very clear parameter feedback, very clear value feedback. And if I ever want to go to the top page, the first 8, then you just press this button and it will go back to the top layer as well. And then we've mapped out the smart controls on any track as well. Now the smart controls obviously are a new feature in Logic 10, and a lot of controllers haven't released a Logic 10 specific patch yet, so they don't control them. But you can see here you've got smart 1 to 8 and 9 to 16, and you can of course view them as well, like so.
Right, on the screen there.
On the screen as well. So, like I said, still good deep integration, but we want to still take it a lot further. And finally, we should look at the transport controls. So if I just so with the transport controls, I talk a lot about extended transport for Nektar, and that's because on all these controllers you see 6 buttons, the common ones. They're on there. Some of them work pre-assigned, some of them don't. They're useful, but without things like click and undo and setting your loop points and toggling your record mode, they're not so useful. You still have to be reaching for the mouse to do those kind of things. So that's why we extended the transport capabilities on our Nektar devices, and this includes the budget series, the Impact series that I spoke about in the last video, and I'll show you again in a minute how that works with Logic Pro as well, because the integration is pretty good. And so you can see you've obviously got your control of the sequencer here, the common controls. Nice thing about forward and rewind is they always skip by 1 bar, which means when you get to a certain point, if I hold shift and press this, I can set my loop up like so.
Right, so that's what I was going to ask you, so you can get left to right locators.
Exactly.
Can you do them in the opposite? Because I remember there was a trick in Logic where if you're playing with an arrangement, you think, I just want to lose that 8 bars quickly, you can go set the right on the left and the left on the right, so when it goes there it jumps. So
yeah, I mean you can do it. It's I mean if I skip on now and said, all right, I want the left one to be there instead, then
so
that's
yeah,
how it works.
Same thing. Oh, excellent.
Okay. And then here you've got to go to the left locator and go to the right locator. You can undo anything that you did there, click track on and off. And then obviously this is toggling record arm on and off for your selected track as well. So yeah, lots of control with our extended transport. And as we'll come to see, that also translates to the Impact series. And it really does mean that you're not using the mouse when you're producing and actually kind of getting your ideas down. So workflow is magnified.
And obviously the pads would they work as just general sort of pad controllers within Logic, or do they have other functions?
Sure. So let's go to a drum track. Loads and loads of samples down here on the keys. If I press the pads button, you see what we've got up here. So for example, you find the sample you want, and if you want this one, for example, up here, or this one, whatever one you want, you can actually learn on the fly. When you select, you can learn the ones you want.
That's handy, because the one thing I always find quite frustrating with pad setup is it's fine if you've already written the track and you just want to play the sounds you've selected, but if you're trying to select sounds, I often just always default to the keyboard because I've got that in all the voices in their entirety, and it's just much easier.
And you've got the pads set up there not doing anything because you don't know what they're assigned to, and you really don't want to have to assign them, because it can be tedious and a lot of control.
I guess the learn feature makes a lot of sense.
Learn feature makes a lot of sense. The other thing you have is octave and transport shift. So if I press the octave button, you can see I can scroll up and down the pad octaves. So in the case of Ultra Beat, you're going up and down all the samples that are available, and a transpose as well. You can just transpose it.
Is that an internal Nektar thing, or is that working?
This is all internal.
Right,
so this is across the board, any DAW.
So pad transpose. Well, that's a really big.
transpose.
That's another thing that, because if you set the pads up chromatically and you just want to scroll up and down the keyboard, you can do that.
There's an easy way of doing that as well. If you press the scale, you actually got a chromatic scale, and you can learn the root of the scale from here. So if I go from C3A, let's just go to a different track, which is... So I'm playing in a chromatic scale there, and I can choose the root that I want.
Ah, neat. That's actually a bigger deal than it sounds like, because assigning pads on the fly is always a nightmare. I haven't found a system yet that allows me to just do it intuitively, and this looks like it's kind of getting there very much so.
It really helps. It definitely helps. We've got numerous different scales in there as well. If I turn root learn off, and you can see I've got different minor thirds. We've got pentatonics.
Right, so you can, if you want to use the pads for everything, you can...
Gypsy.
A bit of gypsy acid.
Bit of gypsy acid, yeah. Nice. And then another nice little feature is going back to drum track. Let's find what we've got. Whichever is the last note you play, you can hit note spread. Let's just go to the pads and... Sorry, velocity spread, not note spread. And what this does is, whichever key I played last, when it's on, it will spread that key into different velocities. So I can do flams really easily, you see.
So it just separates it into 12.
Yeah.
12, oh right,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so then choose the one you want to do, hit velocity spread. Again, same thing, go back again, velocity spread off.
And that's temporary, that's sort of on the fly, so...
Yeah, it's just literally there it is.
Right.
So it's good for doing specific, just experimenting with different velocities, particularly when you've got like a multi-timbal sample. A multi-velocity sample where you get a different sample played according to the velocity that comes in and triggers it. It's great for doing flams, even kind of like crescendos.
Right, said Fred fills.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
So I guess we got a little bit off piece. This is not specific logic, but it's interesting to see these features. So
it's worth showing as well.
Yeah.
One of the other, obviously the other thing about the pads is that you can assign a controller to them. So again, we're going into internal here, which means it's all internal to Panorama. I can go to the control edit. Here's my pad telling me what I'm going to do. I can set them to send keystrokes if I want to. ASCII keystrokes, up to 8 keystrokes per.
Oh right, so you get some real macro.
Yep. And why would you use 8? Well, I mean, an obvious one would be maybe for duplication. If you want to copy paste something.
Turn loop on.
Yeah, Apple C, Apple V, and turn loop on at the same time. You can do all of that in one keystroke, one button.
That works. So that, I mean, it's almost like batch processing, effectively.
Yeah, exactly. There's your 8 keystrokes, and you can learn them on the fly. That's really quick, and it's not. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's quick to do this, but once you set it up, you never have to do it again. And you can access them always on this F keys as well. You can see here. You got 10 different presets of F keys as well.
Right.
That you can access alongside the DAW support. So you hold this down, and up they come. And as I said, you can assign the pad velocity, the pad pressure component to be a controller as well. You could assign it to be fixed velocity for the pads. You could change that fixed velocity, so you could use the pressure on one pad to change the velocity that you're playing on other pads, if you see what I mean.
Right, gotcha.
All kinds of really cool performance ideas that you could think of by assigning any MIDI controller or any component to any of the whatever you can assign to these, you can assign to the velocity.
Right. Okay.
Component and the pads. So I guess that's kind of a good look at the internal features of the Panorama. And we should obviously look at the smaller controller as well, and we'll look at how the logic integration works there, how the kind of overall user experience is with a Impact controller compared to a Nektar. Okay, so we turn on the Impact series, and it pops up in Logic. This is the first time it's connected, so it pops the control surface setup to show you that you've got a new device in Logic. So I'm just going to close that window, and we're ready to go. Same principle as Panorama. Navigation is based around specific modes of control, and the entire control surface will work to the mode that you're in. So if I hit the mixer button, I can open and close the mixer.
On the screen.
On the screen, yep, like so. And you can see straight away I've got volume control here. Now, although you've only got the encoder section here, of course, the LX61 and the 49 have an extended control surface, so you have the fader section as well. What we do with the 25, you don't lose any control. It's just a portable version of the controller. So if you hold down the mixer button, it actually changes it so that you can change the pans as well, as you can see.
All right, okay.
So you release it and you're back on your volume controls. So you don't lose any functionality from the big ones. It's just a portable version. That's all it is really. And the reason I wanted to show you this one, like I said, is it's available this month in the UK. The track volume over here is always a selected track. I can change the track with shift and track up and down, like so. And so you can see I've got my track volume here, down there, track volume here. And again, it's picking up without any parameter jumps.
Right.
On the selected track volume nicely. You've got over here, you've got the ability to change the mixer channel preset again, so we can go through the different kits that are available.
And this is loading an entire
yeah.
channel setup, and that's including all the plugins. Because Logic, the thing about Logic, it comes with kind of channel presets, which are an instrument plus a load of processing as well. It's an entire sort of channel strip recall, right?
It is, yes. So that patch button there is controlling, is recording all that information about the entire channel strip information, the plugins, everything that's on it. Yeah, essentially. And there's a massive library that you can see on the side here that it's going through. So as I go up and down, and you can see what's going on. It's obviously going through the library of the drum machines.
Right, got you.
So that's mixer. Very simple, very straightforward, as it should be on a entry-level device such as the Impact series. What about if I want to play something? So I've obviously got my keyboard down here. Similar way to the Panorama. You've got your samples you like. You've got your pads up here that can also play. Find the samples you want to work with. And then if you hit the pad learn button, choose the pad you want to assign. Find the notes that you want to play on them. So put that one up there. And when you're done, turn pad learn off. So it's straight away learn. It's just one button, learn it on there. So take any sample you want off the keys, put it on the pads.
Okay.
There's also 4 pad maps. So although there's only 8 pads, there's up to 32 samples available in one, and just by
like 4 banks, right?
4 banks. So hold shift, hit pad map 2. You've got another load of drums instead. So
right,
yeah. And you can obviously save them as you see fit as well. So yeah, up to 32 pads in one effectively. And so yeah, very quick example of the pads. And then instrument, we've got an instrument mode on here. Particularly for budget controls, you don't see that very often because it's quite complicated to do. We saw with Cubase how the grab feature worked, where you could grab controls off the plugins. Now we haven't been able to yet implement that with Logic, but what we have done is preset all of the internal instruments for you, pre-map them. So if I just open up this instrument like so, there it is. Straight away I've got control of useful parameters, cutoff and resonance, like so. And in a similar way to mixer mode, by holding down the button I was able to change the pans rather than the volumes. I've got my cutoff and resonance, my useful 8 parameters here for the plugin. If I hold down the instrument button, you can see I've got envelopes up here, ADSR.
Right.
Both envelopes. Filter,
and you use that as a sort of commonality between all the different instruments?
All the way across, the same mapping applies to all the way, all the way across, all the way, sorry. All of the instruments have the similar mapping layout, so envelopes when you hold the button down. And
can you multi-page through stuff? I mean, say ES1's got like a lot of...
No multi-paging, just because we haven't got the display and you can end up getting lost.
Right.
But what you can do is, at any time, use Logic's Learn Modes, Apple L, move a control and map it straight away. And what's nice about the Impact series is that you can map third-party plugins, or you can change the default mapping that we've done with instrument mode. In instrument mode itself, you don't have to use a second layer, because a lot of controllers where they've already mapped the instruments for you, if you want to map an instrument that isn't already mapped, it completely removes the parameter from all of the pre-mappings that it had.
Right.
So we've done it in a way where you can use instrument mode for instruments. That's what it is. Right. But we've also provided some pre-mapping for you.
Right, gotcha.
And just finally, on the first preset of the Impact series, you have control of the smart controls. So if I press this button, I can straight away control my smart controls.
Gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, very easy to use, very straightforward. If you've got the 49 or 61 version, you don't obviously have to hold down the button to get to the envelopes because they're already on the faders. All we're doing there is switching between knobs and fader mappings effectively.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks, Tim. So that's the Impact and the Panorama versions working with Logic X as well. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. That was the conclusion of this series. Remember, if you want to watch the other videos in the series, there will be buttons hovering somewhere about here that you can click on. But thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Tim for giving us that in-depth look.
No worries.
See you next time.